Okay, we're back now. So thank you for rejoining us for those of you who are here for the first portion, and thank you for coming in for those of you who have joined us since earlier this morning. So this afternoon, we're going to hear from the admissions team, our Associate Dean Calder on behalf of the Amicus team, as well as a number of students who are in the JD, JID program and an upper year Indigenous students in the regular JD program. So at this point, I'll pass the mic over to Lori Klear, our admissions officer.
Okay, I don't stand still, so I walk around quite a bit. My name's Lori. Welcome. I'm so excited that everybody is here today. When I do a presentation like this to people, I do a couple of things. I like to get to know my audience a little bit before I just dive right on in. But before I even do that, I just want to share with you, I spent last night laying in bed thinking about this. What do I want potential applicants to this program to walk away from? I'm going to be giving you and sharing with you a lot of information about applying to the program. What I want you to walk away from, if you forget everything I say today, do not forget this. Authenticity. Who are you? Where do you come from? Why are you wanting to come into law? Who are you? And what are you going to be bringing to the community that is the Faculty of Law? That is the question that I would like you to think about and to walk away with. Authenticity is a very difficult thing for many people and for many of us in this society. When you're applying to this program, it's highly, highly important. We want to know you. We want to know who you are, where you come from, and why you're interested in this program. So, authenticity. That's the one word I'd like you to walk out the door with and remember if you're interested in this program. Having said that, I now have a question for all of you. Why law? Why are you here? Anybody, just throw it out. Sorry, I guess I'm running.
Hello, my name is Oz, and my response to that is probably a bit like rudimentary, but I think law, because it has a lot to do with the foundations in how we communicate with each other at large, so with society and everything. I think it's really important because it kind of sets up sort of rules and guidelines in how we're going to build relationships with people that we don't know and we do know. So, I don't know, it can be on the basis of like using it as a foundation for regardless of what you decide to do. And particularly this, I'm here because I'm interested. I'm already taking Indigenous studies. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot for a while. My current professor is pretty amazing in terms of like just explaining the history of it and also how to formulate the right questions. I do know some people who have taken law as well, amongst other courses and programs, but I think that this would be a really good sort of like marriage of trying to understand the world around us. Personally, I feel like there's a lot missing, probably for selfish reasons, and also from what I hear from the people in my life and people who I don't even know. So that's why law.
Amazing, thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, I said a little bit on it earlier, but you know, reducing systemic racism, helping my communities that I'm a part of. That's why.
Thank you. One more? Or, well, not one more, but
I was thinking about that the other night, and my basis is that law, it's the basis of social reform. So I Googled that, and apparently there's a lot of university courses on it. Anyway, but I think it's the basis of society and the basis of social reform, but then also, when even in law, there's also the other side of it. When laws are passed, there's the dealing with not allowing them to erode as well. Not just changing them, but also not allowing them to erode, because we've been seeing a lot of that in a lot of different ways. So for me, I think it's just the basis of society, the basis of reform.
Thank you. Anybody on this side?
12 years ago, when I dropped out of my undergrad, my dad, who's a lawyer, said to me, if you're gonna go to law school, you're gonna love it, but you better be ready. And if you're not ready, take a break. And now I'm ready to start again. And having his full support and knowing that, like, yeah, you are ready and this is the time for you to take this step, everything's just kind of fallen into place. And that's like, I don't have a reason for going for why law, but it's just a reason for law right now.
Thank you. Okay, I'll do one more and then I'll actually do what I'm supposed to be doing here.
The law is a tool for shaping societal beliefs, societal norms, and the way that people relate to each other.
Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody for sharing. It just gives me a really good idea, and also helps me and give you an idea of that's what you write. That's what I want to know. That's what the committee wants to know. Why law? So you're interested in the JID program. It is a very competitive program. It is a very exciting program. It is a cohort-based program. So we have we accept 25 students into the program every year. Like the JD, we're going to be looking at your LSAT. Everybody's aware of the LSAT, what the LSAT is? Okay, we're going to be looking at your LSAT score. We're going to be looking at your cumulative GPA. So if you have completed an undergraduate degree, I will be calculating your GPA, years 1 to 4, and I will be, depending on the number of credits or units that you've completed, discounting some of your lower grades. So for example, as like many of us, if you were, that transition to first-year university was a little bit of a shock, and you may have some grades that you're not super proud of in that first year, those grades may disappear or not be included in that GPA calculation depending on the number of credits or units that you've completed. I know I've been on the blogs, the law blogs, law application blogs, where everybody's saying it's your LSAT and your GPA, it's your LSAT and it's your GPA. Yes, it is. Absolutely considered. However, what people do not also consider is the power of your personal statement. That's why I always begin these sessions with why law. My next question to you would be, why UVic law? What is it about UVic law that is of interest to you? What are you bringing to the table, and what are we able to offer you as far as your career and your educational goals? Do not discount the power of that personal statement. It's two parts. Part A is 750 words, where you're going to tell us exactly what I just talked about. Why UVic law, and how you are going to contribute to the community that is UVic law. Part B is where you're going to tell me in bullet points your extracurricular activities. You're going to talk about your educational, your work experience. You're going to tell us who you are using bullet points. The JD, it has additional supplementary, or the JID, sorry, has additional supplementary documentation that is also very important. You must write a letter indicating your connection to community or your lack thereof. And I'm actually going to ask Ruth to come up and help me talk about this a little bit, just how we define community. So many people of Indigenous descent have no connection to community because of colonialism. You have an opportunity here to write to the committee and let us know how colonialism impacted your connection to your community. For those of you who may be of non-Indigenous descent, that connection to community could look like volunteering volunteering as a soccer coach with a group of Indigenous youth, working down on Vancouver's east side, working with marginalized populations down in that area that may be primarily Indigenous. I'm going to pass it to Ruth here, who can probably speak to this a little bit better than I can.
Hi, everybody, again. So you did cover some of those pieces, but what I tell students all the time is, again, what Lori's already touched on is that authenticity. Don't try to paint a picture that you think we want to hear. Just be very truthful and honest about your experience and why you want to be here. Those communities can be the community that you come from, the community that you grew up that is nearby to where you grew up, or you've been to another institution or you're studying here. Maybe you're connecting to the communities around this area or the Native Students Union here at UVic. A lot of people, as they're just finding out about their own identities, find that connection through their institutions. I think I would encourage you to move beyond that, but it is a really good start. It is a really good start to connect to those centers at the various universities. Most of them do have these centers, and they do amazing work. They bring in amazing speakers, and they have access to how you can connect where you are, for those of you who are online, at those other institutions. And so that's what I really encourage students to do. And again, back to that authenticity piece of not trying to paint a picture or do something just because you feel it'll help you get into the program, but because it's something that you're passionate about, and that's meaningful for you, and that you're hoping to affect change.
Thank you. The other pieces that are required are 2 reference letters. So a reference, we need an academic reference and a character or employment reference talking about your connection to community and your commitment to this particular program. So this program, these applications are looked at what we call holistically. So we are going to the committee is going to look at each piece of your application individually and then together as a whole. So when I talk to people about applying to this particular program, I say to them, you want to make sure that every piece that you submit is excellent. It's like applying to a graduate program. This is not a one-off overnight application that you're going to prepare. This is an application where you're going to put a lot of thought into it. You're going to put your heart and soul into it so that when you hit that submit button, it is the best of you. It is absolutely the best of you. So we see the best of you when we review your application form. When you are talking to references, please do not approach somebody and say, will you be my reference, and walk away if they say yes. Because you may never ever see what they write about you. People have a very difficult time saying to somebody, I actually don't feel I'm in a position to give you the type of reference that would be strong enough to get you into a law program. You need to sit down with those people and say, I'm applying to a very competitive law program at the University of Victoria. It's really important to me. Here's my CV, here's my transcripts. Can you provide me with the type of reference that will support a strong application to this program? And if they say no, thank you very much, and move on, and find somebody who can do that for you. I think I'm getting the flag that my time's up, so I am available afterwards for any questions, and please, it is, the one thing I want to end this with is, I've started off with the authenticity. That's what I want you to remember. Leaving here, for my last words are, I can tell you, I think I'm going to address it to this gentleman here who asked the question, is there hope? Yes, every application I read brings tears to my eyes. You are the future. You are the change. You are the people that are going to be making a difference in your own communities across Canada and globally. So yes, there absolutely is hope.
Thank you, Lori. And I'll just quickly pass it on over to Gillian. This is Associate Dean Gillian Calder of Academic and Student Relations.
Yes. Hi, and it's a real privilege to be here today. Thank you. My name is Gillian Calder, and I am the Associate Dean with the mandate for student support and student success at UVic Law. I am a Scottish-born immigrant raised on Squamish territories, and I've been a privileged guest here on the Kwanghan-speaking territories since 2004. That grounds me every day in the amazing work that I have the good privilege to do. You've heard a lot today about the ways in which this transformative, fantastic program is shifting what we do here, the potential and the hope and opportunities for it. And what I want to say is that admission into the program is not enough for UVic Law as an institution. We've also had to think in a systemic way about how to walk alongside our students who come from a diversity of places during their law degrees and during the duration of this new program. So what we have done, and this has been grounded at UVic Law since you heard Professor Burrows say the early 1990s, is to offer a culture of support. So at the heart of our law school is a program called the Amicus program. It used to be one person, it is now 4 people, and we have some of those people here today. We have personal support in that we have an embedded counselor at the law school who offers us, would you like your name mentioned out loud onto the internet? Yes, Christina Friesen. We're very privileged to have Christina Friesen, who is a UVic counselor. Embedded in the law school, has counseling hours available to our student body and also diverse programming with our student body and participates in many of our events. We have an Indigenous and Cultural Support Liaison, Zubaydah Khan, and her work is really focused on recognizing the many diverse obstacles that exist for students to do their very best at law school and to walk alongside those students through that, with a particular focus on the needs of Indigenous students. We have an accommodations officer who's not here today because she's doing that work elsewhere on campus, Yvonne Lawson. And our accommodations officer works with students who may need academic concession because something arises in their day-to-day life that to address an obstacle, or who are living with some form of disability and have connections then to our Center for Accessible Learning. We also have an academic support component of the Amicus, which is a tutoring program that's run with our upper year students who support first year students in the JD and the JID program with other kinds of supports. And putting the Amicus team at the heart of the law school is to remind us all of what's necessary alongside our amazing teachings to ensure that our students have success. With the Amicus program, we also have student services. So we also have a team of amazing people that I get to work with every day in the front office. So for all of our students, there are many, many different points of connection that they can have when they are experiencing joyful moments of their law degrees and also when they are experiencing challenges. So luckily for us, we have some of our amazing students here today, so you can hear from them directly instead of us saying how awesome they are. And I think I'm turning over the microphone to Corbin Greening to start off with. So I'm happy to take any questions about our student services as we go forward.
This is for the students. Sure. Thank you. Yep. Wave at me if I forget.
I'll do like that.
Sure. No, that's all right. Welcome, folks. And welcome, everybody online. I've been told to welcome you. I'm sorry, I can see on the screens up here that we're quite close. And my apologies, I just ate a muffin, and this thing is a spider web for muffin crumbs. I tell that story just because I'm a little nervous, truth be told, and I know that the rest of these folks are just a little bit nervous. It helps to just get a little bit of a warm-up. We are not actors. we're students. This is March. March is a tough time here. And we have taken some time out, and maybe we're just a little bit neurotic at this time. But yeah, bear with us. I remember this time when I was just a little bit before I came to law school. I was probably at the time 29 years old. I'm now 33. And I was in the middle of a career that I really enjoyed. I was negotiating a treaty for my First Nation. I'm Tsimshian from the Gitgat First Nation, which the Tsimshian people are located to the north and south of the mouth of the Skeena River, and I was working partly in Prince Rupert and partly in community in Hartley Bay. It wasn't me that came up with the scheme to go to law school. It was a number of the other folks. They saw me getting really excited about treaty negotiation and the legal elements of it, both the exciting conceptual stuff, but also the math-like, logic-driven nuts and bolts of working with the law and drafting and things like that. So they said, you should go to law school. And initially I dismissed it, not because I didn't want to, but because I knew that it was going to be tough, and I was concerned about whether or not I'd make the grade. And then that noise, that sound, the number of people that were encouraging me to go to law school increased. And according to me, the prestige of the people that were requesting me to go to law school because I had shown interest increased. It was chief and counselors, it was my coworkers, it was hereditary chiefs, and that got me really excited. And then what followed was the grueling adventure, or what felt like a grueling adventure of the LSAT, and that was tough. And I remember being nervous throughout that, but it turned out okay. I got in, and I'm really pleased that I got in. And I've been eager to get into the JID program. And sorry, folks, I'm not in the JID program. I'm actually in the JD program. And I came into law school in the year before the program started. I reached out to ILRU. I reached out to a number of other folks at UVic Law. And I said, how can I get in? Should I delay my entrance for a year? And they said, don't do it. Just go in, get it. You'll have a ton of other great experiences. And like a couple months after I'd got in, the funding came through, the program was launched, and I just missed it, which I'm disappointed about. But I still have had a fantastic experience. It has been extremely challenging. I have been tested, so to speak. My peers have been tested, but I absolutely think that it's worth it. What's going to follow my little spiel here is we're going to hear from all of the students, all of the real students. So I did say that I was not an actor, but in fact, I am an acting JID student right now. The rest of them are real JID students. So I'm just going to start over here on my left, sort of, and start with Cody. So Cody, where are you from? What was your path to law school in the JID? Test. Oh, please stand up. Or else the cameras can't see you.
Hi everyone, my name is Cody, and I'm a second-year student in the JID program. I'm a Irish and English settler and grew up in the Syilx territory of the Okanagan Nation, and have been out here in Lekwungen territory for a couple of years. And my path to law school and the JID program came partly through my undergrad studies, which were in philosophy and astronomy, and I wouldn't have guessed that would have led me to law school, but it did. And during one of my philosophy courses, we were discussing some legal concepts one day that had to do with territory and with terra nullius and with these colonial legal ideas that I hadn't heard about before. And it was right at that time that the Tsilhqot'in Aboriginal title decision had just been released during my studies, and the TRC had also was just wrapping up its mandate. And so it was kind of a convergence of these different historical moments that were a bit of a colonial wake-up call to Canada's past and present that I hadn't been all that familiar with, and a wake-up call to how central law has been in all of it. And so it got me thinking that maybe law school was a way to approach a lot of these bigger and also personal questions, and the timing was just happened to be as the JID was in the works, and it was very exciting. So that's how I came to law school.
Sorry, a little nervous. Damak skanatani nitsukua, nitstunadana onastaya kopi, na nitsitapi, numuktuktu gana. Good morning, everybody. My name's Dustin Fox. I'm Blackfoot. I'm from the Blood Tribe. And my journey to law school is actually quite a long story, but I'll just give you the educational part of it. I grew up in southern Alberta, born and raised, and went to the University of Lethbridge, where I finished a degree in sociology. And my biggest interest while going to school was the impact that colonialism has on the education system, especially systemic racism. And so that was a huge interest of mine, and I didn't really realize that the law was intrinsically connected to the issues I was facing at home, and a lot of community members do face who are Indigenous. And so, like Corbin said, the LSAT journey was a struggle, and from the time I got here, things have been pretty challenging. I'm not gonna lie, like especially coming from a community, things are pretty hard to get used to around here, especially being so far from home. But especially with this program, you guys heard John Burroughs speak earlier. This program really does see the connection between colonialism and our issues we face at home. And one of the biggest issues was the systemic racism in the education system. And for me, this program really popped out because it's a mixture between the two, and I just wanted to see how it was, and like talking to people like Zubaida and Gillian, this program really seemed to be a good fit. So once I got here, I didn't really know what to expect, but I was pleasantly surprised that most of my classmates were really, really good at critiquing systemic issues, and which I fit right in. So if you guys are really thinking of like challenging certain issues that we face, especially coming from community, then I really think you should join this program, because there's not too many people who come from community, especially in this program. So I really hope you guys join. So thanks.
My name is Beth, and I'm also a Blood Tribe member, so from Treaty 7 territory in southern Alberta. Law for me has been a second career. I'm a social worker, and I had practiced for about 5 years before kind of realizing that I wanted to build some skills and learn some new knowledge that could help me be a better advocate. So that kind of led me to thinking about law, and it just worked out coincidentally that this was the first year that this program was going to be offered. And I knew a lot about UVic law. 2 of my siblings have graduated from the JID program. So I knew this was a good place and a good fit for me. Being off my territory and away from home can be isolating, but I knew that it was a good community here with lots of supports, and I've been really happy to connect with my classmates, the staff, and faculty here. So it's really a unique experience and something that I feel very strongly about.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Hoversland. I am Teslin Plinkett from the Yukon. I'm going to shout out to my daughter up in the corner who's completely zoned out. But she knows. So she's 7 years old, and her and my spouse are Champagne Ajac from Yukon as well. My journey here was a long one. Obviously, a big concern for me was being a mature student and a mother, making the decision to come here because in the Yukon we don't have a university. They are creating a university currently, but there's no law program. So I've always wanted to go to law school as long as I could remember. The last 5 years of my life, I had been working as a senior justice analyst, working with First Nations people in the justice system. So my role was to advocate for the overrepresentation of those individuals in, I guess, community and in incarceration as well. So I finally got the courage. The LSAT is very scary. Myself, I'm a very visual learner, so I took a weekend course at UBC to prep. It was a 4-day course, I believe, and then I finally wrote it in 2017. I heard about this program, and I was very much wanting to be in this program, so I put it off, and there was a lot of other things, systemic issues in my life, making me think that maybe I couldn't get into law school in general. I put it off, I became a mother, and I just, time had gone on, the work experience gave me the courage probably to go ahead with the LSAT and apply. I got into Thompson River University, and I got into this, I couldn't believe I got into UVic, but I did. And so that was my decision because I chose smaller universities because I do have a child, and I don't want to be commuting for hours on end with a little one. So yeah, I got in, we unpacked our whole life from the Yukon, drove down, and I have no regrets whatsoever. I think I've been very lucky with Zubaydah and Ruth and all the support here. I mean, they fight over who's going to babysit, so that's really cool. Professor Morales lets me take her to class when I do other professors as well. Super supportive. And that's kind of how I got here. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny Thilinathan. I'm first-year JID from Toronto. I am Tamil from the northeast of Sri Lanka. My journey to law school, I really didn't think I was going to go to law school. I was definitely that student in university that partied too much, so my first 2 years I didn't have the greatest of grades. I switched my program around 3 times. I think I always took a First Nation Studies 1.0 credit for my own education, just to learn as a settler, and I loved my professors. I loved what I was learning. I was doing better, so I finally switched my degree for the 3rd time, and I was doing really well. I think I had a lot of great professors and friends and peers. When they found out that this program was starting, they were like, you need to apply to law school. You got to go, get out of Ontario, move to the West Coast. And I didn't think I was going to do it. I really close to my family, so I didn't think I could. And then graduated. I was like, no more school. I'm tired. School is not for me. And then I worked for Chiefs of Ontario for a year. And I think I still had a lot of great professors and coworkers telling me to apply. So I applied. I had a very hard journey with the LSAT. I think I wrote it around 3 times, and I'm not saying that none of the times went great. So I really didn't think I was gonna get in. And then I think when Ruth called me, I was like, wow, they're calling me to reject me. Like, this is great. Thank you, UVic. But I was super, super surprised to hear that I got in, and I would advise you guys to apply, even if you think you don't have the grades or the LSAT or it's a far move, do it. There's such great staff, such great professors, great support here. I think I found my family here, being like 5 hours away by plane. I found a family, and I don't regret it at all, so yeah.
Thanks, folks. The next question that I've got on my list is, why did you choose the JID? I didn't choose the JID, so I'm going to go a little off script because I got the mic here. I've got a couple of things to say, though. I'd like to address a part of the joys of staying at UVic. One of them is the Indigenous Law Students Association. We're a group of Indigenous law students that comes together once every couple of weeks we meet, we talk about our time at law school, about the things that uniquely affect us, but we're also pals outside of that room. We also organize together to address perhaps systemic issues that affect law students in UVic and elsewhere. It's become a really important part of my time at UVic. I think that for other Indigenous students that come here, it will be as well. And the other thing that I really wanted to get out before we leave here today is I'm in a position where I've actually done something that the JID students have not yet done. I was able to be a part of a pilot program for a field course that will be critical to the JID students' learning and a critical part of their degree. And it was a fantastic experience. I did it, it was co-taught by John Borrows, who you've already met this morning. It was every day you go out and spend time with other students that were extremely keen to learn off the land and to learn by analogy, to learn the law that comes from the land, from elders in a very specific space, to understand the relationships between the law and the land and how people have managed those things. And it was absolutely the best experience, class learning experience that I've had in law school. So absolutely fantastic. Now, back to our regularly scheduled programming. How did you choose, how did you choose the JID, Cody? If you haven't already answered this, I know a bunch of you have already hinted at this already.
I guess one thing that seemed very exciting and important about this program specifically is, and if you're kind of highly skeptical that, as I was in coming in, that colonial law is capable of providing the sort of solutions that are needed. And I think this program is a really powerful response to that, since it's sort of based on the idea that colonial law isn't the only law in town, kind of, I guess, and that it's a really new kid in town, and that legal education should be rooted in the Indigenous laws of these lands. And so this program was exciting for me to think that changing my own relationship to Indigenous lands and Indigenous peoples of these lands kind of requires learning law in a way that you're learning the law through the land and the lives that law comes from, and not law from elsewhere. So I think this program is very much about that. Dr. Napoleon has also said that it's the most exciting legal work being done in the world right now, and I definitely agree with that. And the program's pretty exciting for that reason.
Well, I talked about it a little bit before with my background in sociology and just looking around on like various websites, and I don't think I watched the live stream last year, but like just the way the program is talked about and described in various like the website and also through word of mouth and in news articles. I heard about this in CBC the first time, and I really liked the aspect of the trans-systemic learning aspect of the law, so that was a big reason why I chose this program.
I think I already touched on this a little bit too, but one of the biggest factors for me is the kind of work I want to do. I want to work with First Nations, building capacity, strengthening their governance structures, and just overall advancing their interests. There's law firms out there already doing this work. I know it's important, and I do think that the JID would be a really valuable asset on a team like that.
I feel like there's a million reasons why. What I've learned though since being here, I didn't mention earlier, but I am first year. So my dad is Norwegian and my mother is Tlingit. So I've grown up in a world constantly living in two worlds. Western society as well as First Nation, and trying to combine them to some extent. And in a way, I felt like this program was created for me in a sense that I could have the opportunity to learn about both because I am both. So also coming so far in terms of politics and leadership in the Yukon, I felt like it was a no-brainer to get this opportunity and have the skills in both. And also our cohorts are mixed from various backgrounds, and I think it's really neat to see these individuals, non-First Nation and First Nation, to be able to have the skills to walk into a community and say, we need to look at the First Nation laws here. And that's probably almost never happens to the extent that I think it will once people start graduating from this program. So I think that aspect is pretty cool, to just come into someone's community and say, what are your laws? I can do the common law easily, but let's look into the details of your history and apply that to what we're trying to do here. So that's why.
Yeah, like Laura said, there are a lot of reasons. I think I chose the JID. I think being around people and having friends and family that have been let down by the legal system, I think learning and reading about this program, I thought maybe this is the little sliver of hope that the legal system can support people, with the hopes that we could see the common law and different Indigenous legal orders come together. As well as, I think, reading about this program, I had the hope that I could come in and learn the tools necessary to even help my own diaspora in Toronto, the Tamil diaspora, as well as back home in Sri Lanka. And I think that I'm supported a lot by professors. I think I wouldn't get this experience anywhere else in any other law school where I could talk about where I'm from, my people, every day in class, and to have professors that recognize that's how I comprehend the information that I'm learning. So, yeah.
Thanks. I think we're going to move on to an open question phase. And so I hope you've got a question or two brewing. We're all prepared to make some pretty genuine, or give some pretty genuine responses here. So you're welcome to ask anything that you'd like about our experience at law school. So please, I'd like to open it up for questions. Online as well. I don't know how you'll do that. They know. There's an email, and you can email that email.
So if no one in the room wants to jump in, we do have some questions, but they're not addressed to the students, so I hope that's okay. They're admissions questions, so maybe that'll just get the conversation going. Lori, no, or? Okay. Yes. Absolutely. If you have questions, great. Okay, I'm gonna run around with the mic here.
Thanks. I'm Dana. Law school is often perceived to be extremely competitive once you're in school and very cutthroat. I did my undergrad out east in Quebec, and the students that I knew that were going through law school there found it incredibly stressful and really difficult on their mental health. So that's a big concern that I would have, and a big concern that I certainly have for Indigenous friends that I know that are considering the program as well. So I'm wondering, in a very honest way, what your experience has been in that regard in this program, and if the cohort model has affected that at all, and just how you're all holding out.
Well, to the question of competitiveness, I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised, especially at the UVic law, that that competitiveness is pretty low. You know, it's a pretty caring community, especially this program, because it's harder in different ways. And the way I mean that is if you do come from community and if you are like a really well-educated ally in the history of colonization, the biggest issue, I guess, in this program is the content. Like, we deal with some pretty hard issues almost every single class. Like, over the past couple of weeks, we've talked about child welfare and violence against Indigenous women, and reading pretty graphic case law about that. So it's harder in different ways, and that's something I didn't really expect, because I too heard law school is very competitive, and like it's really like ultra competitive, and that's why I wasn't sure I wanted to come here. But coming here, it's pleasantly, so like I was very pleasantly surprised that it isn't very competitive, but the content of the classes that's where the actual struggle is, if I could be honest.
I'll just add a little bit to that. I think I heard Professor Burrows talking about it earlier, but in this program, I think there's a lot of intellectual learning, but like also the like emotional piece. So I definitely think that there's days when I've come home like intellectually and emotionally so drained. And I think it is really important to address that that's happening. You know, it's a lot of work. We put a lot into it, and it's very tiring at times. But like similar to what Dustin has said, I do think the community here is so great, and like all the supports, it really helps fill up that gas tank when it's running pretty low.
I wasn't going to, but I'm here, so I might as well. Very good points from my colleagues here. I think that another colleague of ours who's First Nation, who's not here today, you know, sometimes throughout my own struggles in life and how I feel so lucky to be here. I feel very honored to meet all of these people who I can debrief with and connect with as a community. But my other colleague would say things, you know, I have struggles in general, and sometimes I don't feel like I deserve to be here, and maybe it was a one-off, and they accidentally accepted me. Like, all these thoughts go through my head, these negative thoughts, and then my friend called it just like the native blues, right? Like, we get into our own head, and we tend to doubt ourselves and our abilities when we become vulnerable. Although the content itself would be a lot more like Dustin said, but with having each other, I think it hasn't felt competitive. I feel, very lucky. I'm older. I know I don't look old. People tell me this. But I'm an older lady, and I don't care what people think, or what they have to say about where I'm at. I'm very blessed to be here. I work hard. I get things done. It's more the outside stuff probably that affect my mental health here more than the schoolwork, other than the exhaustion. But, yeah, if that helps.
Thank you. We've got another audience question, if that's all right, over here.
Hi, I'm Brooklyn. I'm an undergrad student here at UVic, and I was just wondering to what extent you discuss current events alongside your case law and your research in classes?
Well, I guess I'm a first year. I forgot to mention that, but during the first semester in this program, it's kind of historical. It's giving you the background of the law and how it has kind of evolved over the last 150 years, right? And so just starting the second semester, we were actually talking about Aboriginal title, and actually had a couple classes on the Wet'suwet'en issue going on right now. So they are super contemporary and like really relevant today, and so yeah, it's really up to date. That's a worry I also had, if it was going to be historical rather than contemporary, but it's both. So.
I also think that if there is an issue or current issue or something that you want to talk about in class, our professors are super flexible. You could either email them beforehand, or we just could bring it up in class, and I think that's the great nature of this cohort. I think it's run very similar to a seminar style like classroom. So I think there's so many times where people put up their hands and we're like, can we talk about this, please? And professors gladly take time out of the class to talk about that. So.
Okay, we're getting short on time, so maybe if we could have one response per question, sorry.
I actually just wanted to ask you as a parent, what do you find the work-home balance is like?
You know, that was a big concern that I had, obviously, coming here. My spouse, he works 2 jobs because I am a student, but we've made it work. And also, very nice community here. Janany and some of my other girlfriends here have actually taken my daughter for sleepover to give me time to study. I've had professors take her on play dates with their children to help me study. Like, you make it work. You'll figure it out. And then sometimes, you know what? I don't do a reading one night because my daughter's sick and my spouse is working. Like, there's just things that you make it work. I don't know how I'm doing it. I'm sure I won't ever, like, I don't remember completely, but it's doable. I bring her to the library. Like I said, I bring her, Zubeda watches her while I study in the library as well. Like, there's options, so.
We have an online question. If there was one thing you wish you would have known before you attended your first year, what would it be?
Maybe one thing I wish I knew was more history, I guess, in the area I was coming to while coming from Alberta. Like, especially the political climate in Alberta, and I guess just the nature of the place. It's pretty tough growing up there, especially with a lot of racism, and I faced a lot of that growing up. So coming out here, which I wish I had known, was to put more time in learning the history about the area I was coming to, and especially the issues with the Indigenous folks here. So there's one thing.
Thank you. We have another online question. We'll do that and then we'll take the audience question if that's okay. How did you get through the LSAT brackets? It scares me. And how do you deal with being so far away from home?
Since I talked about doing the LSAT 3 times, so I guess I'll take this one away. So I did LSAT practice stuff through 7 Sage. It's online. I found it cheaper than maybe getting a private tutor, or I know like some schools do, like Princeton. There's Princeton and I forgot the other organized companies. 7 Sage is good. You could do it at your own pace. I find that like my biggest advice is like, do it at your own pace. Don't compare yourself to your other peers. Don't think that I have to do it in a month and then right away. Take your time with it, like fully understand it. There's no timeline to law school. That's what I was told, but there's not. And there's gonna be times where you wanna give up because you wrote the test and you're like, well, this is not for me. I didn't get the grade that I wanted. Keep going. I kept going. So keep going. It's gonna be really, really difficult, but it's so worth it, and you can do it. Like eventually you can do it and have good support around you. And then being away from home, it's tough. I think the toughest was September to December because there was no break to go home at all. I also have like a 3-hour time difference from here to Toronto, so that was kind of difficult. But FaceTime is great. Texting is great. It's hard to keep, when you're in law school, it's hard to keep up with people back home and friends back home, but put it in your schedule. And I think the greatest thing about this cohort is, because for our cohort, there's only 18 of us, so we were really forced to become a family. And I think the greatest thing is when you're homesick, you could just call up on someone to be like, let's go out, or let's get dinner, or let's study together. So there's such great resources here, and the homesick kind of goes away. So yeah.
Okay, we're going to take an audience question.
So my question kind of goes off the last point that you were touching on. I'm really curious about the cohort dynamic and like how it's structured. Like, do you have weekly meetings, or like how do you interact in the classes that you have? So yeah, that's my question.
So I guess one thing that's been very much a learning experience is navigating the dynamics both within a cohort and between the two law programs, between the JD and JID, especially since the JID is such a new program. And so we're learning as we go, and folks in the JD are often curious about the JID, but not always familiar with how that works. So I guess I would just say, like, the challenging colonial dynamics and tensions do find their way into the program and across the program, unsurprisingly. And I think one of the hopes, and it's very early days, but an exciting thing about the program is to try and take what it is that we're learning through the JID program and see it not just as something to apply after graduation, but like learning Indigenous legal principles and processes that can actually help to address the dynamics that exist within the program itself. So I think that's the hope for that, but also to acknowledge that those dynamics are absolutely there.
I'd like to do one more online question. Maybe we can finish with this. And if maybe each student could respond to this one. What do you intend to apply your degree to, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, after you graduate?
Well, I guess at the end of this program, we'll have 2 law degrees. So I'm a first year, so I actually only have 1 semester of law school under my belt. And at this point, it's pretty early to tell like what I want to do. And just talking to certain firms, like I've talked to maybe 2 or 3, and they're really excited about this program as well. A lot of people have their eyes on this program. And one thing is that it's opening a lot of doors rather than closing them, right? And so I'm still waiting for my education to develop to actually see what I want to do, but that's part of the, I guess that's the really good thing about law school too. It's exciting because you don't really know where you're going to end up, so.
I feel very strongly about working with First Nations, so I'm certainly going to be applying my degrees in that capacity in some way. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to look in my 2nd year right now, so I've got some time to figure it out. I think getting called to the bar is something that's important to me, so long road ahead.
I would say, in my previous experience, like I said, I worked in a criminal lawyer as we were court worker. We had a program, so defense has always kind of been something for me. And then with this program, learning how to apply, it's always been on my radar, restorative justice, and then being able to go to the community and say, what can your community offer in regards to an alternative sentence or so on and so forth. So that's been my goal. But since being in this program, honestly, it changes. It's so early on, we don't know. But I'm actually liking a lot of Constitution, which is weird to me, because I remember seeing the schedule thinking, oh boy, well, how am I going to do here? And I've actually done really well, and I actually quite enjoy it. So it's up in the air. If there's a world that I can have both of those, that right now at this time I would choose, but a lot can change in 3 years, so we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. Being first year, I don't know, but I think I'm excited to see where this degree leads me. I hope, as someone non-Indigenous, I could work with Indigenous people or community at some capacity, as well as figure out how to use this degree to help my own diaspora. I think the most exciting thing about this is I think by the time the 2nd year cohort graduates, there's about 40 of us with this degree. I could be off, 26 plus 18, not sure. But and I think it would be really, we all have the same intentions, so it'd be really great for us to be able to call each other no matter what and be like, oh, I have this client, can you help? And to use each other as a network. I think that's the most exciting part.
Dr. Morales had said a couple classes ago, it just reminded me of something she had said, which was the hope is that through this program, Indigenous law will find its way out of the facts section of court decisions and into the reasoning section of court decisions. And I hadn't heard it put that way before, and it just stuck with me. And I'm not sure where I will end up working, but I hope that in some way to kind of put that into practice and scale back on colonial law and legal reasoning and find ways to change that system, both from inside and outside. And I think also what's really cool about the JID program is it's not like you are learning law, but you're also learning so much more. So I think it would be really cool also to see in the future, not just JID trained lawyers, but JID trained artists or scientists, or like working across fields, because a lot of what we're learning does also push beyond what we sometimes just think of as law.
I did do the field school, yeah. In the JID program, you will be doing a common law degree, and I did the common law degree, and I'm in third year. I've got 1 month left, and I've also gotten my articles. I plan to move back nearer my home. I'm going to move to Smithers. I'm articling at a firm called Giddings McEachern. I suppose I was at a crossroads of sorts. I had the option to stay in Vancouver and pursue something in Aboriginal law or something maybe that I was more distinctly interested in, or I could go up north somewhere closer to my community and practice something more general. And I was encouraged by those that I care about in my community to come closer, because if I do that, I will find my way back into the community, doing work that's relevant for my community in the common law. So that option is available to get close to your community. I hope to, at some point in time, be in-house counsel for my First Nation and acquire those skills. And that is very available with my common law degree.
Okay, so we will end it there. I just want to say thank you so much to the students for being here. For sharing bits of yourself with all of us in the classrooms and in the hallways, but also here right now with those who came and joined us today. I want to thank those online for joining us and everyone sitting in the ceremonial space for joining us. I will say that a recording of this event will be available on the UVic Law website. And if there are any follow-up questions, particularly we didn't have the chance today for those admissions questions to come forward, we can send those through to Lori and myself to answer some of those. If there are questions about the amicus team or other supports available at UVic Law, we're happy to answer those as well. Oh. We can. Okay, what are those 2 quick online questions? Okay, here you go.
So we have 2 online questions. We'll just address these admissions questions really quickly because they're quite general. I'm not Indigenous and don't have any connection to an Indigenous community. Can I still apply?
Absolutely, you can apply. Anybody can apply to the program. We do consider your experience, your knowledge, your passion, your commitment to these things. So I think, again, pointing back to, if you were here for Lori's part, is to that authenticity piece. What is your story? Why do you want to be part of this program? And that helps the admissions committee for the JID program decide whether they're a good fit. We don't always fill all 25 spaces. It is a very particular fit, and we try to build our cohort with that in mind. But absolutely, we have a mix of Indigenous and non-Indigenous students. We have a mix of experience in there. But I would encourage you to think through your reasoning for wanting to be part of that cohort.
Okay, one more, and we do get this question a lot. Can I apply to both the JD and the JD-JID?
Yes, you can apply to both. You do have to do two separate applications. There are two separate processes and two separate application fees, and the decisions are also separate. So you may get into both, you may get into one and not the other, or none, but hopefully you'll get into one. But yeah, you can apply to both. Is that everything? Okay, so that is where we're going to end it. If there are follow-up questions, either from those here or those online, you can please send them to LAWADMSS, that's LAWADMSS @uvic.ca. That's Lori's email. She can forward them along as required to any other of us who are here to help support the program as well. And we do have a light lunch available for those of you who are here with us in person. Sorry to those of you at home, but you hopefully have access to a kitchen or a restaurant or something. Thanks again to the students. Thanks, Sarah, Jillian, and others for being here with us today. Miigwech.